Now we're live.
Hey guys, it's Jay.
And Monica.
And we are back after a couple of weeks, or a week actually skipped because Monica and I were on vacation last week in Las Vegas, Nevada, and we had a wonderful time. We went out there for business for about 3 days and then decided to keep the weekend to ourselves and had an amazing time. But we are back and moving and grooving. Very, very busy day in the real estate side of things today, but obviously we are here for our beautiful, wonderful hangout. Monica is, of course, getting calls from crazy realtors that we're not going to answer right now, but let's jump right into the topics. I know that there's 3 different topics today. The first one was about, I know Dr. Brett's going to jump on the call and call us up. How does the lighting, are we okay on lighting?
Yeah, you look great.
Light check.
You guys
Okay,
are
perfect.
sexy beasts.
The first thing we were going to talk about was a little bit about SOAR.
I like your shades.
You like these guys? These are for the.
I like the hint. I like the hint.
They're for deflecting the computer light. They're called gunners,
Oh, nice.
and they're supposed to help your eyes. Like my eyes don't hurt at the end of the day now when I'm looking at the computer all day.
I noticed you have a new headset too, so you're really stepping up your game, bro.
You're making us look bad. Okay.
Awesome.
I got some good news for you guys too. When we get going. Well, I've started doing Dr. Brett's workout from Get Serious.
Nice.
Oh, dude, my body feels like I got run over by a dump truck.
Yeah, that's the way it's going to feel for a while until you get stronger.
But
That's
anyway,
awesome, man. That's totally awesome.
we can get going, man. So
Yeah, no worries. So, you know, I'm hopeful Brett will jump on the call here in a second, but we'll just start talking a little bit about. So we scheduled SOAR. We delayed the launch of the first, or the second SOAR seminar until October, and
cool.
it's gonna be October 15th, 16th, and 17th, which is the same days as it was originally scheduled in June, which actually would have been last week, or actually not last week, but the week before. But the reason we delayed it is twofold. Number one is Brett's practice, his new anti-aging clinic, Ageless Corp, is delayed a little bit. It's going to be launching sometime in the next couple of weeks. I don't know the exact official date. I'll let him come on the show and tell us. We'll talk about that in a second. And then also the launch of my book, which the book is completely done. It has been master edited. I'm waiting now for the PDF to get back from the publishing company and all the final graphics say. I'll have one more look through it, like one more final round of me saying, okay, I'm finally saying this is done. And then from there it'll be good to go. So it's crazy when you publish a book how much back-ended work is required, like especially when you're working with affiliate partners and all these different people that are going to promote the book or sell the book.
Yeah.
You have to be very dialed in, very particular. Thank God I have Kerry Wan to help me. He's been doing a lot of stuff. We've linked up with DEFY Medical, which we'll talk about them in another hangout coming up for sure, as another option in addition to working with Dr. Osborne. And again, we'll talk about them. But they've also been very instrumental in like helping us launch that, so that we're going to be able to have like two awesome TRT resources for men and women to reach out to optimize their hormones. So very, very excited about that. But as far as SOAR, it's like I said, it's been delayed. We're really slowing the marketing push of it too, from a standpoint of I want to see Brett's practice get up and running. I want to have him be able to handle and do intake with new patients and obviously maintain all of his regular patients. And then of course I want to get the book out in the hands of people. Once the book is in the hands of people, we're going to get a lot of word of mouth marketing because there's tons of mentions of SOAR in the book. So there'll be a lot of people that'll probably want to sign up for SOAR just by reading about it in the book and going to the sales page, which our sales page is awesome, which is, again, it's soarforever.com. If you're thinking about contemplating, changing your life from a hormonal optimization and anti-aging strategy, that is a program that you should get on.
He's waving at Scott. Scott's waving at saying me.
I'm happy it's in October.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That works for my schedule a lot better.
Oh, in October?
Perfect.
Yeah.
Cool. You and your honey are going to come?
Yeah, I hope.
Cool.
Yeah. She's a little young, but you never know. It's never too young to start.
No, dude, no. That's the beauty of this thing totally, is you should absolutely understand that whether you're 25, 45, 65, you're never too young. It's true. You can change the game by making conscious choices right away.
Right. There's always room for improvement.
So, you know, I was hopeful Dr. Osborne would jump up on the call, but maybe let's just talk. Let's talk a little bit.
Yeah, let me ask some questions if you don't
Sure,
mind,
yeah,
Jay.
we've got a bunch of stuff. Yeah. Go ahead.
So for anyone that, you know, I know there's a whole page website for SOAR, but let's, you know, for someone that's watching that's new and hasn't kind of watched some of the past Hangouts, why don't you go through a little bit quickly on the first event you guys had and maybe like your main things or takeaways that
Sure.
you feel are real important that people will take away from this type of event if they participate in it.
Go ahead. You.
Me.
Monica.
I get to speak. So the first SOAR event, what we did is Brett, obviously, Dr. O actually spoke and gave us some insight as far as health, nutrition, supplements, how everything works. I don't know if anybody knows, but Dr. O is pretty smart. And Jay's also good.
What?
But anyways, so then, and what happened as well was Jay spoke about testosterone replacement therapy and how that can benefit men, and also hormone replacement therapy for women. We also had Ray, who is a former Navy SEALs, and spoke about the warrior mindset. That was fabulous because we actually got to do that training on the beach at like 5 o'clock in the morning, was it?
Yep.
So that was pretty intense.
Cold.
And it was cold!
It was in February in Florida. And it
no
was
bueno.
Brutally cold. The water was freezing.
I was the only woman who completed.
Yeah, it was brutal.
And so that was great because that tests your mind barriers, because we all have barriers. We all have barriers that we believe things, you know, can only be a certain way, things can only happen a certain way, and it was great because, like what Ray says, is, you know, you're only as strong as your weakest link. So how do you work together as a team to create the results that you ultimately want to create? And then also, we didn't really touch too much on, you know, I'm going to also have a mindset segment as well, which is more about peace, prosperity, abundance, happiness, that type, more of like a Zen type deal. Did I cover it all? Did I miss anything?
I think she covered it all. I mean, you know, again, what SOAR is it stands for Serious Optimal Anti-Aging Regimen, and it's basically a way to, as Dr. Osborne would say, deter or to slow the aging process. And, you know, how do you do that? Well, you do that, it's multifactorial, but you do that through intelligent and scientific planned progression weight training. You do that through, if you qualify, depending on your age and your natural hormonal levels, a hormonal optimization program. And then, of course, the three-tier approach or prong would be nutrition. Okay, and then obviously Monica just mentioned mindset and all that other stuff to tie it all in. But all of those things, if you combine them and you get the right program, you work with a Dr. Osborne, you work with a FabFit over 40, on dialing all those things in, and you absolutely, positively, 100% unequivocally can slow the aging process and honestly, like, completely take control of your physical life, you know. And obviously, as Monica says, it's not just your physical life, it's your mind and body connected.
Yeah.
So
which bleeds into everything that you do in your whole life.
Yeah, exactly. There was my dad actually sent me an email recently. I guess the rage right now in how would you call it? Biotech is the investing community is what Brett and I are really attacking and promoting. And obviously, like Brett said to me the other day, the life extension community, you know, LEF.org, they've been promoting this approach for close to 15 years. So it's nothing new, but I think, you know, Brett and I are kind of a novel approach the way we present it. But the true way, and now the biotech people are starting to understand this, to attack the aging process is through, you know, disease prevention, okay? Because aging is a disease, okay? And until our medical establishment recognizes that, and of course benefits companies and corporations, things aren't going to change. But you can absolutely slow the aging process for the stuff that we just talked about.
Right. And then I like to think about it this way as well, because it's wonderful to look fabulous on the outside. However, if you're not feeling good on the inside, what good is it? Because we want to have the whole package.
Right. And
right, Scott?
And too many people. And you know, and Monica and I have been traveling a lot lately. We've been very blessed and fortunate in our lives to travel. We travel across the country to Georgia for a family reunion, and now we were just like in Las Vegas. And we had a stopover, and so we've been in different cities a lot in the last month. And I can tell you right now, and this is, you know, not not a pleasant thought, and I hate saying this, but man, our society in the United States and North America has never been more out of shape. I mean, there are so many obese people out there, and there's no reason for it. It's just you're not focused. It's like Monica says. I'll give Monica credit. Monica says this about so many people. Nobody takes their health seriously until they don't have their health. And it's like you can't look at life like that. You have to be on the attack. It's like your job. It's like your children. It's like your car. I mean, you've got to constantly keep everything tuned up and in motion. And if you don't, you're just letting yourself go. And once you let yourself go physically, man, your life is going to spiral out of control.
Yeah.
You're getting
yeah. Well, I'm getting some feedback. Can you guys?
Yeah, I hear you. What about now?
All right, that's much better. Okay, cool. I just had some firsthand experience with this when I had a realization that every time I go to the freaking dentist, she's like, you got another crown, you got to get another $800 or whatever. I'm like, oh my God, this is exactly what we talk about on FabFit every day. I am not doing enough preventative to prevent myself from spending all this money on my teeth. So I need to start flossing every night. So I made it a point. I am to floss every single night and then eat some good gum after my breakfast. And she said that would help. So anyway. Yeah. I'm here. You guys there? Hello? Hello? It looks like we're losing the connection. Hopefully they're going to rejoin here through the link.
Okay.
There you are. I can't see the. No,
it's got to be you, dude. I got mass.
It's not me, man. Hello. We're still live here. I just melted down.
Dude, I have no idea what's going on. It's got to be you because I just did a speed check and I've got massive bandwidth.
Okay. Yeah. Let me try to jump in a different way here.
You're good now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Perfect.
Okay.
In and out.
Yeah. I can't see you guys, which is weird.
No idea. Yeah, I have no idea.
There we go.
Yeah, I just did a speed test and we have really good bandwidth, so I don't know what's going on.
I don't know either. But let's just keep talking. I can hear you. There you go. I can see you now.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. You know what's sad? Okay, just kind of going back on what you said as far as you're not taking care of your teeth until you realize that you got to pay $800 for a crown. If you think about it, what's really sad, Scott, is most people right now are more focused on like their TV schedule, on what's going on with them as far as sports, than they are about their own respective health. And the sad part about it is this is what we got to live in. This is our vehicle for the rest of our existence on this earth.
Yep.
And if we don't take care of it, I mean, anybody can go to an old folks home and they can go and take a look at the people in there. I'm sure not one of those people thought, hey, I would love to end up in one of these facilities. And those people are in wheelchairs. They can't eat by themselves. They have to be fed. I don't think anybody truly wants to end up that way. So why not take the steps necessary to help you lead a life that you're going to be happy about even when you're 90?
Yeah, I mean, and the truth is, too, is that it's not hard, as you know, Scott. I mean, honestly, like the Brett Osborne workout protocol is 2 days a week.
It's just an accountability thing. It's like you have to put it before everything out. And that's one thing, you got to go to work, right? But you got to make it a priority. Anything else outside of work, you have to fit in the workout before you do anything else.
You're 100% right. Let me just add to that. So I'm not going to name him by name, but a good friend of mine that I actually met through our blog about 6 months ago, 5 months ago, who's a very, very, very successful entrepreneur. High level multimillionaire, who is obese. He's overweight and he desperately wants to lose the weight. He's only like 4 years older than I am, but he's let himself go, and he realizes now that it took about 8 or 9 years for him to fall out. He used to have a great physique. I've seen pictures of him when he was in his 20s and he looked great, but he let himself go. And so it's like, I've been working with him, and like doing private consulting with him, and he's been mentoring me a little bit as an entrepreneur. And he said he went off the wagon. He's down in San Diego, like with his family on vacation or whatever for the next couple of weeks in Coronado. And he told me he went off the wagon last night. We were driving back from Vegas, and I was texting him as I was driving, and I said, I'm not going to mention his name, but he knows who he is. I said, look, man, I said, until you put your health as your priority in life, no amount of money that you make, no amount of success that you have in business is going to mean a damn thing when your loved ones and the people that you care about, go to the hospital to either, say their last words to you or are standing at your funeral because you're not taking care of your physical being.
Yeah.
I mean, that's people truly do lose sight of the fact that the only thing that you have in your life are two things, okay? You have your integrity and you have your health. You don't have anything else. All the other stuff is just games, toys, money, all the things that we get all caught up in.
Hopefully you have love.
You have love, but really, if you don't have health and integrity, you can't give love. You can receive love, but so it's like you have to take those things. You have to take those things very, very seriously. Yeah. And it's like you can't lose in the hierarchical scheme of things. You can't lose track of putting those two things in perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yep. I love it. God. All right. So one more question about SOAR, then we're gonna move on.
Sure.
I may have asked this before, but I want to ask it again for people that are watching. So let's say we go to the event. It's great, amazing. We're inspired. And then we got to go home to our daily lives again. And we got people pulling and prodding us. We don't have the people holding us as much accountable, the motivation. I mean, those are the tough things that you have to keep that flow going, right? So what are you guys doing with the group to help them, stay motivated and stay accountable to keep following the system after they come home from the event? Because I know, when I look at even just the real estate industry that we work in, a lot of times it's like these people go to these huge events and it's beautiful and blah, blah, blah. They get motivated for a day and then they go home and they have nothing to implement and they're like, oh, that was great.
Right. I just posted $2,500. No, so it's a great question. So we do have a strategy. It's twofold. One, we're going to have a private Facebook group for everyone who attends SOAR. Okay, it's going to be moderated by myself. It's going to be moderated by Jim Brown. It's going to be moderated by Monica, by Brett, of course, Ray. And then there also the second strategy or second tier to that will be you will be able to work with us individually. Okay, we're going to offer coaching programs. I mean, everybody. The thing is that everybody's going to be at different fitness levels.
Right, of course. Jeez, my connection's so terrible today. Sorry, man. I don't know why my connection sucks.
Are you there?
Yeah, you're at everyone's at a different fitness level, and my connection started flaring up.
No worries. So everyone's at a different fitness level. Everybody has unique wants and needs. So the Facebook page will be more specifically for like the general. Everybody showed up to SOAR. Here's how we're going to keep you guys in line. You can ask questions. Here's the take-home message, blah, 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 the bullet points. But if somebody wants something more beyond that, they can definitely work with us individually, through private instruction. Like, for example, Jim and Melissa are going to be teaching mobility and workout, technique and whatnot. And so, like, if you struggle to squat or you struggle to do some specific movement, you'll be able to work with those guys, through like video instruction, regardless, almost via Skype or even through the telephone or FaceTime, and you'll still be able to improve your technique and your results in that fashion. So we're definitely not going to leave anybody hanging. But as far as like how evolved is that process yet? I mean, that's going to be stuff that will work out. But we've talked about that at length already.
Plus, if you think about it, Scott, as far as like coaching goes in any field, real estate, I mean, it could be any type of field. If somebody's not willing to put in the work, like you can get a whole, this whole diet, or you can get, this exact workout. You can get trained. You can do all this, but if someone doesn't have, like what Jay was saying, part of it is integrity. Most people today don't even have integrity for themselves, for goodness sake. They'll keep their word to somebody else, but they won't keep their word to themselves. Yeah. So it's sad, I think it's just important to recognize the importance that you have to yourself, because if you don't have that, then you can't give anything to those that you care about. And I think part of that, and that's where I believe the mindset comes in. Like if you have a strong mindset, then you're going to do the things that are necessary to get there. And of course, you know, there's going to be private coaching, there's going to be other things. But in all honesty, nobody's going to be able to force anybody to do anything when they're back home. People are going to have the integrity, and they're going to have to, you know, be able to put in the effort to complete what they've actually learned so they can accomplish their goals.
So Brett just texted me, Scott, and he said that he has a neurosurgical family neurosurgical problem. So he's hopeful that he's going to call up at 7:45. So let's just keep going. If he, I told him, don't worry about it if you can't make it. It's, you know, take care of your family. It's much more important. So we can just keep going. One of the things, if we can't talk about Brett's practice, we can definitely talk about the TRT book. I have 1,000 questions from 1,000 different guys right now about that.
Cool. I would love to get into that, and I want to ask you, you know, a question, and this is something that I personally have been struggling with, and I think probably a lot of people out there do. And just recently, I kind of had a realization about it. But you know, I'm sitting here. I've had a long day at work. You know, I get up so early, get to work so early that I don't have time to work out in the mornings usually. So it's got to be after work for me, right? Sure. And usually I have a pretty good energy level if I go right to the gym. But then I get these barriers, like these walls of like I'm start thinking like, well, you know, there's so many people at the gym, it's going to be so crowded. I don't want to deal with, I have like this whole workout thing that I have to do, and I got all this other stuff I have to do. And I start making little excuses, you know, for why maybe I shouldn't go to the gym tonight. Now, I was able to fight through that yesterday, and I went and I did the workout, and it was awesome. Nice. And I'm going to go back tonight, and I'm going to do the cardio workout for day 2, and then I'm going to keep trying to do it.
Right.
But what do you say to that? I mean, what's your advice for me and for someone like me, which is a lot of people out there that don't necessarily have a workout partner to go with to keep them accountable, knowing that they're going to go meet them at 5:30 every day to work out, and they have to go do it by themselves?
So it's a great question. I'm going to let Monica answer this too, because I think she could probably offer points that I won't. But let me back up. It's like from like a bigger picture perspective, like, you know, there's 2 types of people in the workforce, right? There's entrepreneurs who make their own hours, you know, like Monica and I, Monica and I can go to the gym whenever the hell we want, right? I mean, we may work 14 hours today, but we went to the gym this morning at 8 a.m. because we can, okay? Now, if you're an employee, a W-2 employee, as I call it, AKA wage slave, like you, my brother.
Well,
you know,
I have the flexibility, but
technically not a wage slave. But anybody who has to be at like a certain hourly, you know, time frame is what I call a wage slave, regardless of whether you own your own company or not. But the reality is if you're on a time frame, it's hard, man. I'm not going to lie to you. It's absolutely hard. If you're in a big city and you've got a horrible grinding commute, it's even worse. You know, the only thing I would say is this, and this is how I know this is a solution for anybody, and we've talked about this before. You can always get cardio equipment in your house. I don't care if you live in a 400, you know, foot square box studio apartment. You could still put a treadmill or a stationary bike in your house. And guess what, man? You may have to wake up a half an hour early every day. I mean, it's like you said, you start making little excuses. And then, you know, the whole workout partner too, I get that too. That's hard. I would say that, you know, put an ad in Craigslist or put an ad in Backpages or put an ad in some, you know, classified around you and say, hey, I'm looking for a training partner. You know what I mean? And if it gets to that point where you really want an accountability partner or something like that, and you can find an accountability partner, but I think that for people that are extremely time crunched and have really, really, you know, difficult, brutal job schedules, doing some form of cardio in the morning on an empty stomach before you go to work, before you eat your breakfast, is better than not doing anything at all.
Yeah, and my input on it all is, I've been there. I've had time crunches. I've had a job. I had to be at a certain time. 3 kids, tight schedule, and look, I'm going to tell you, how bad do you want it?
Right.
How bad do you want to be in shape? How bad do you want to train? How bad do you want it to look good? Because if you truly, truly want it, I don't give a shit who's not going to work out with you. You'll figure it out.
Right.
And if you do figure it out, you'll make the time. I don't care if the gym's crowded. I don't care any of that stuff. I remember there was a time when I was married to my first husband, and I had the 3 kids. They're all really little. The only time that I could really work out is if I woke up at 4:30 in the morning, to go to the gym. That was the only time because I had kids things to do after school. By the time I was done with
Super mom.
I mean, I was done my day was done at 6. I had to pick up the kids, take them to practices, do homework, blah blah blah. My day ended at 10 o'clock p.m. So
Okay.
my only time was 4:30 in the morning. I made it work. I got up 4:30 in the morning, worked out for an hour, and then came back and took the kids to
Even though
school.
her ex-husband tried to foil her as hard as he could.
No, check this out.
You're a phenom though, and you have the motivation, right? You had the motivation to say, you know what, I don't give a shit. I'm gonna get up at 4:30. I'm gonna make this happen. For someone that hasn't necessarily had that realization yet, right? And we're talking big picture here. There's so many people that just don't respect themselves enough. I mean, what do you say to them that they're like, you know, I don't, maybe the motivation isn't there, or are they, you know, I don't know. It's such a tough thing to, you know, because it's kind of like saying, you know, this guy's just naturally born with really good looks and this guy isn't. And so this guy doesn't do anything. He's not motivated. This guy's super motivated, but he can't get in shape, right? Yeah. So I don't know. Like, what's the mindset that you had to have, I guess, is where I'm going with this question.
My opinion, and I mean, Jay, you can tap on it too, but it really comes down to, and this is going to sound corny, I get it, but do you really love yourself?
Right.
Do you love yourself enough to care? Because if you love yourself enough, and I would look at yourself in the mirror, and I've done this plenty of times, because I will be honest, at one point I did not love myself.
Man in the mirror.
Yeah. We just saw Michael Jackson in Vegas, and oh my God.
Did you see it?
Yeah.
That show,
oh my God, I've been wanting to see that show forever.
Yes.
That show is absolutely amazing, but don't change the topic.
Yeah. Okay. So what
You
I
started,
would do, because I did not love myself at one time, and I didn't take the time and the steps necessary to do the things that would create an amazing life for me. When I finally got to that point, I would look at myself in the mirror and I would stare at myself in the eyes, and I would basically look as far as I could into what my soul is and say, who are you? Do you love you? This is you. There's no other you. And what do you want you to look like? So it's like you have to have this conversation in your head to create what it is that you want. And only you, Scott, you with those glasses and that headphone right there, you can dictate what that is, because I cannot dictate that. I can tell you till you're blue in the face. I can be a sergeant in your face saying, get up, get up, get up. Do this. And you know what? If you don't feel it, it doesn't matter.
I'm going to give a perfect segue to Monica's answer, okay? And I'm going to plug my boy's book. But Mike Cernovich just wrote a book, okay? It's called Gorilla Mindset. It's already in the top 5 on Amazon right now for self-help books. It's going to probably be number 1 pretty soon. I would recommend everybody who watches my show, everybody who's the person that Scott was referring to, who struggles to get motivated, who struggles to get up in the morning, who struggles to work out, who struggles to eat right, go buy that book, okay? That book is that revolutionary. It will change your way of thought. It will change your ideas about why you are self-loathing or why you're not motivated or blah, 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 or whatever. But it's Gorilla Mindset. Order that book. It's $9 on Kindle. I think it's $14.99 in paperback. It's actually worth buying as a paperback because it has tons of exercises at the end of every chapter about mindset, about changing your state, all kinds of stuff that is incredibly helpful, especially for people that are not motivated. Okay, it's definitely worthy for guys like me, you know, that are like hard chargers, type A driver, crazy people that have to get everything done 100 times before it's, you know, not even done. But it is definitely more, in my opinion, more beneficial for people that are lazier, not as motivated, not as inclined to be, you know, to reach for ultimate success.
$13.49 if you're Prime on paperback.
There you go. Be right in the house. The book's amazing. Literally, book's amazing.
Frequently bought together, Gorilla Mindset and Get Serious.
Yeah, so we're yeah, exactly. So I mean, we're, you know, Brett, Mike's been promoting Brett, and Brett, you know, I obviously introduced Brett, and I mean Mike to Brett, and Brett to Mike, and so all of us together, eventually, those 3 books, that my TRT book will be a part of that book too, or that contingent.
And my book too. Future prophesizing.
Monica.
Nice.
Well, it's funny because we can.
Jay, I want your book, man. What's the deal with that? When we
you're gonna have it pretty soon. I mean, it's been delayed a little bit because Mike is he wants to be, you know, Mike's involved in that book too, and he wants to focus on Gorilla Mindset. Gorilla Mindset launched about 10 days ago, and
okay, that makes sense.
You just don't want to launch 2 books at the same time because there's a lot of things around Amazon and stuff like that about you don't want to get too convoluted and stuff. So right. I don't make promises, but I believe that all my friends, including you, will have the PDF like for sent to you in lieu of you writing me a beautiful Amazon 5-star review by the end of the month, and then publicly for consumption, same price point purchase agreement thing. It'll probably be like $13.49, $9.99. I'm assuming by middle of August to end of August. It just depends. It just depends on when Mike's Gorilla Mindset is done from a pre-launch and a launch perspective. But we are going to do a pre-launch sale of the TRT book, and that will definitely 100% start before the end of July.
Awesome. Awesome. So
the book is great, by the way. I've seen the book. I've seen the final edited PDF. I have not seen it in color. I saw it in black and white, but it's got all the imagery. It's got all the pictures. It's got all the graphical fonts. It's very, very easy to read. Okay, right. You and people that are biochemical, non-endocrinology, no microbiology backgrounds are going to be able to understand it. The first time they read through it, they're going to make sense out of it. It's segmented in different sections. It's got, like, whenever you come upon some like really esoteric or arcane like biochemistry or endocrinology regarding the male, it's got nerd alert. It's got this picture of a guy in like a lab coat with like his little pocket protector and stuff like that. And so it gives you the idea that, like, look, if you don't want to read about the nerd stuff, then don't read this. And then it also has sections where it's got a guy in a yellow, like a worker's outfit, like a service guy on Caltrans or something like that, where it says caution. So that's an area where, like, look, slow down, pay attention, and read this, take notes, bullet point this, highlight this. Very important for you to understand. And then I also have sections in there where it's pro tip. So that's kind of like for the advanced guys who have already used TRT, who've already kind of understood, been working with a doctor for a long time. And they want to take their hormonal optimization to the next level.
Awesome.
I can even understand it, Scott.
Yeah, no, honestly, the book is very, very easy to understand. All the high-level guys, including Nelson and people that have written books in the field, in the niche, who have read it, have all said to me that the best part of the book is how clear and how simple you made it for people to understand.
Awesome. It's amazing.
Cool. I think it's 132 pages.
Sweet. Perfect. So, speaking of Nelson, real quick, and I don't want to get off too much, but the last hangout we had with him, of course, and maybe go through a couple little details on how someone would go about kind of starting the blood work process again. Sure. Obviously doing SOAR and that's a whole level. You got to be ready to do a life change, because that's really what that is, and it's very exciting. But maybe just to start out and see where you're at.
Yeah, no, great. It's a great question. So you know what? Let's just jump into it. I'm going to go down a couple of different pathways. Brett's already aware of this, so there's no harm, no foul. So if you're going to read my book, which I hope a lot of men around the world will buy the book, a lot of people will get the book through audio and paperback, you're going to have a bunch of different options, okay? As Scott just mentioned, the first thing that you have to do if you're considering TRT, and again, it depends on your age. There's a lot of factors. It's all very, very stridently laid out in the book. You have to get your blood work done, okay? You don't want to go, primarily, you don't want to go as your first option through your benefits provider and order like retail blood panels, because they will absolutely crush you. You will get billed for $1,500, $1,800, $1,200, whatever it is, depending on your provider, depending on your level of benefits, just to get routine blood panels. It's a very much simpler solution. You can use Nelson's company, Discounted Labs. It's discountededlabs.com. Okay, you can go through those guys. There's some other competitors out there. There's a privatemdlabs.com too, but there's other ones in addition to those two guys. But obviously, because I'm close friends with Nelson, and Nelson's an awesome guy, and his company's awesome too. And I actually got my blood work there the last 2 times. I definitely recommend them. If you use the discounted code Excel Mail, I think that's the newest code, you'll get 10% off your order. But you can literally get a comprehensive metabolic panel, a complete screening of your metabolic health through your blood panels for $250, okay? If you went through your doctor, and even with extremely exquisite medical benefits, you'd still spend $600 or $700. I mean, it's crazy.
And normally if you do blood work through your doctor, they don't test like anything.
No, they don't test what you really want to get tested. And as you said, you don't have the choice. You don't actually have the choice of the specific test that you want to be indicated, like sensitive estradiol or estradiol or testosterone or free testosterone or even hemoglobin or A1C. I mean, there's a lot of different tests that they will not test for that are absolutely imperative to be aware, as Dr. Osborne and I have said, about understanding, a good semblance of your metabolic health. So that's.
So how do you, Jade? I don't mean to interrupt, but how do you, if you're a first-time person going to this site, like, how do you know which one to choose, man? How do you know which blood panel to do, or is there a full workup one, or?
No, so it's a great question. The easiest way to understand this is just go to my site, FabFitOver40, and search the blog that I did about discounted labs, about Nelson's company and how you do it. It's literally, I laid it out like step by step. But for men, it's I think it's called a men's hormone panel or a men's.
Yeah, no, it says pre-TRT male hormone / wellness panel for 254. Yes.
So that's exactly, so that and those are recently and new, and he's done those actually subsequently since I wrote that blog. But if you're a guy contemplating TRT, that's what you would get. If you're already on TRT, they actually have panels that are the wellness panel, I think. And then the females have the same thing.
Yeah, dude, there's so many different blood work tests that you can choose. I mean, there's got to be 50 on here.
Yeah, no, but if you're just general and you're starting out and you're contemplating optimizing your hormones, those you just want to get wellness for both men and women. And if you're pre-TRT, you want to get the pre-TRT one. But you can see the charges are very, very low. I mean, they're like under $200 most of the time, or right around $240 or $230 or something like that. So I mean, again, it's very, very cheap relative to what you would pay if you paid retail through your benefits provider.
Cool. Awesome. All right, man. So the other stuff that we were going to jump into today, I think we were going to talk a little bit about, a review of a couple take-home messages from Get Serious One, and then jumping into a couple different books and websites that you recommend, and we kind of jumped into that right now. So maybe why don't we just continue on this and continue talking about, real quick before we get into Get Serious, some other, if someone's obviously they're reading the FabFit blog, they've read Get Serious, you just mentioned another book here. God, I'm blanking it right now. The Gorilla Mindset.
Right.
What other things that are, and then your book that's coming out, of course. Yeah. What other things are in line with that that can really help people?
Sure. So, going back to where we were too, about like after you get blood work done. So if you get your blood work back, through discounted labs or private MD labs, or even if you do unfortunately go through retail and you get your blood labs back, and it says you got low testosterone, indicative of a blood level, they say sub 500 or suboptimal 400, 300, 200, whatever. Your options are, obviously TRT. Now, again, I want to say this with the caveat that a low testosterone diagnosis is a clinical diagnosis rather than a blood panel diagnosis. So that means that it's basically, it's related to your symptoms. So you could have 400 or 500 level testosterone and have so many symptoms of low testosterone that a legitimate TRT prescribing physician could still script you TRT. Again, depending on your individual situation. So I always want it to be, made well known that it's not just your low blood panels or your low blood levels. It's also symptoms, and symptoms always trump blood panels. But that said, the book is going to recommend a twofold strategy. Okay, you can work with Dr. Brett Osborne, obviously at his clinic in Jupiter, Florida. He's a concierge physician, as you know. He's one of the top TRT physicians in the world. He's extremely knowledgeable. His book, Get Serious, is one of the best books. In my opinion, it's probably the best book that's ever been written, from a standpoint of like performance, health, nutrition, and it's written by a brain surgeon, a very genius man who's a brain surgeon. So, I mean, it's totally written in the context of health and longevity, okay? So that's option number one. However, if you can't afford Brett, and Brett's not, he's not going to be a really cheap guy. You got to fly into Florida to see him. You got to, consult with him. His consulting fees are a little bit, they're commensurate with what he provides you. But, for a guy who's, let's say, a cop or a fireman or a teacher or somebody who's just a middle class to lower middle class, socioeconomic person, DEFY Medical, so that's DEFY medical.com. will offer telemedicine services. So anybody in North America, now there's a couple states that I don't think they can practice in, and I'm not going to quote those states right now, but I think there's 3. But every other state qualifies. You can literally work via Skype and via telephone and, of course, email with their doctors. Now, they're based out of Tampa, Florida. I'm going to do a blog on FabFitOver40 about DEFY and the program that we're building. But that's good. They're all now totally architected and integrated into the TRT book. They are going to be a solution for men. They are very, very, very cheap. Dr. Osborne refers to them as the Walmart of TRT. And, you know, in all honesty, that's kind of what they are. I mean, but you still get great service. You get great treatment. They have amazing, high-quality TRT physicians, Dr. Justin Saya, Dr. John Chrysler, great doctors. Know them personally. Highly recommend them. You know, obviously Dr. Brett's amazing too, and can't recommend anybody higher than Dr. Brett. But for the people that can't afford Dr. Brett's services, can't afford to fly into Fort Lauderdale, and you know, for example, I'll give you an example. Like, let's say you're a guy who lives in the wilderness of Montana. You're 2 hours from Jackson Hole. You're 2 hours from the biggest city. You have to drive 2 hours just to get blood work. I mean, a guy like that or a woman like that, you're not going to fly into Fort Lauderdale, Florida. It doesn't make any sense. You know, so if you can work with a company like DEFY and work with their great intake coordinators and their nurses and the doctors that work with them and do it all via phone, via fax, via Skype, hey man, you got to do it. And I'm not going to get into their monetization scheme, but it's very, very affordable. I mean, like literally, like anybody, any man, any woman can afford their program. It's not expensive. You can get legitimately prescribed you know, hormonal optimization and ancillary medications and any other things that you need for literally like pennies on the dollar. So I mean, those are the 2 options, and you know, as you know, Scott, you know, 2 months ago I didn't have that option, and that option is now available. Now, DEFY's been around for about 2 years. They have 4,500 patients in North America, but it took a little while to work behind the scenes to put together a program with those guys.
Cool. Oh, I'm not going. All right, so that's great. So, I mean, so people have options.
You and Frank can work with DEFY. You know, you guys don't have to fly in to see Dr. Osborne. I mean, you can go to SOAR. That's obviously a great option.
Right.
If you just want to work via phone, you're like, look, you know, you get your blood work back. You know, you see the way it works. So this is the way it works.
Yeah, so you go to discounted labs, you get your blood work.
Yep. You know that
figure out what you're doing. You go to DEFY with your blood work. They evaluate it and they suggest solutions. Correct. Exactly.
What the only other thing I left out, which I should add, you know, because it's important, is that you know, DEFY doesn't skip the step of you seeing a physician. What they'll make you do is they'll make you get a physical from a local physician in your market. You know, they'll send all the forms and all the stuff that you need to fill out for that doctor. That doctor then will give back to you, and then you'll submit to DEFY. But that's how they do still go through a physical, personalized evaluation. So it's technically a surrogate of DEFY that you'll get your physical through. And then from that, everything else is just, like you said, exactly blood work that you do either through discounted labs. DEFY also offers blood work. It's actually through discounted labs too. So it's a similar program. But yeah, basically what you said is exactly right.
So would you suggest to someone, if they were looking to do this, would you suggest that they go to discounted labs first and get their blood work done, or they go to DEFY first?
It doesn't matter. I mean, that's a great question. That's actually a great question, and I've never actually pondered it, but let me answer it how I would best answer it. If you're a guy that already has been using like gray market or black market testosterone, and you finally want to go legit, and you want to get it under the, you know, a prescription from a doctor, which you should. I mean, obviously, I highly recommend, because if you're not, you're breaking the law. And I'm not going to quote, you know, talk about people that break the law. You have your own choice in this country, but it is still breaking the law. So I always recommend, you know, getting a legit prescription through a physician. But if you're one of those guys, then you don't need to go through discounted labs. You can go through DEFY Medical. You can send me an email to j@fabfitover40 literally today or tonight or whenever, and I will put you in touch with their intake coordinators over there, and then, you know, they call you and contact you, and away the process goes. Now, if you're just somebody who's new to TRT, has no idea about testosterone, has no idea what their blood work is, has never dabbled in hormones, never done any of that stuff, then I would definitely say your best bet would be to get your blood work done first. See what you're working with. Look at your panels. You know, most people don't know how to read their blood work, as you know. You know, I always make this offer. You laugh, and Monica can tell you it's the truth, but guys are sending me their blood panels all the time. I mean, I will get around to looking at them and helping you, advising you on like what's wrong, what's right, what can be fixed or what can be optimized. So that's always an option, but I would definitely go through Discounted Labs and get your blood work back first.
So let's say you do that process. You go through Discounted Labs, you get your blood work. Would you then go to DEFY, submit them with the intake coordinator so they already have that, and then from there they can kind of walk you through the process?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yep.
Cool. All right, man. And then the other thing that we were going to jump into is kind of backing up and talking about, you know, some of the most important take-home messages from Get Serious 1.
Sure. So let me before I jump into that, I have a really good answer on that. Let me just talk a little bit about Get Serious 2. So Get Serious Volume 2 is going to be a book that is really honestly going to be like an advanced strategies guide for realistically Guerrilla Mindset, Get Serious 1, and the TRT book. Okay, and we're going to take way beyond, you know, the general concepts or precepts in those 3 books and really make it a strategy guide for people that are at an advanced level. So people that have already been taking those concepts that are talked about in those books and maybe say using them for years or months or whatever, and now saying, okay, guys, we're putting this book out because we really want for people that are, you know, really into this stuff to really like optimize their life and take it to the next level. So what does that mean? Well, like we'll have a chapter on intermittent fasting. Intermittent fasting for maximum muscle gain and ultimate fat loss. So, like, for example, like everybody knows about the Bulletproof Coffee Diet, right? Well, as I've said on this show and I've said on different podcasts with other people, the Bulletproof Coffee Diet is great for energy. It's great for professional people, business people to use to have good focus in the morning and stuff like that. But guess what? It's horrible for fat loss. You know, there's all these women out there that are on the Bulletproof Coffee Diet that are putting 10 tablespoons of butter in their coffee and be getting fatter. And now complaining, and it's all over the place, right? So I'm not going to, you know, harangue Dave Osprey for his book or whatever and say that he's full of shit because, you know, technically in some parts he is, because he's told people that the metabolic efficiency of that diet, you can't gain fat, well, it's total bullshit. It's still thermodynamics. It's still about calories in, calories out. But we will take that book, Get Serious Volume 2, Advanced Strategies, will take all of these like really like cutting edge, like in vogue topics like intermittent fasting and the Bulletproof Coffee Diet and all these other things are at the top of the age, and we will take them and we will point out to people this is where they're effective, this is where they're inefficient, and this is how you maximize them if you choose to use them. So the book's going to be awesome. I don't know when it's coming out. There's so much stuff going on with Brett's new practice. Guerrilla Mindset has been, you know, is blowing away expectation. I'm sure my book is going to also go beyond what we expected. So saying all those things, I think the book will be out in the first quarter of next year. Brett really wanted to get it in the hands of people by December, but I have no idea. There's a lot of stuff going on with Brett and I, too, with Iron Man Magazine now. They want us to write additional columns in there. So there's just so much stuff is breaking right now that I don't want to, like, overcommit on Get Serious Volume 2, but I do think that it'll be out by, like, the end of first quarter next year. So if you have any questions before I'll jump into what I think is the real take-home of Get Serious V1.
Yeah, I mean, and you don't even necessarily need to do that, man. Honestly, we got a lot of viewers watching right now. Anyone that wants to put a question up, obviously Jay wants to answer them. So in the right corner, there's little squares. Click in there. There's a Q&A button. Ask a question. We'll get it answered for you right away. And Jay, I know you said you had a ton of questions.
Yep.
That maybe we can go through some of those. That'd be really cool, I think.
Yeah, for sure. Let me just throw out there though, because I really wanted to talk about it. Like, what to me, and obviously this is Brett shares my thoughts, but because we have conversations about this all the time. And again, for all you guys watching, you know, thank you for watching our show and thank you for paying attention and being readers of our blogs and all that stuff. Make sure you buy Get Serious V1. Okay, it's an amazing book. There's so much information. I mean, even someone like, you know, immersed in the science of all that stuff like I am for over more than 2 decades, I still read it almost daily. I mean, Brett, it's just, there's so many nuggets of wisdom in there. It's insane. There he is, by the way. Hey, Brett.
Oh, my God.
Guys, what's going on? Sorry, late.
Doc.
So he jumped on, so I'm going to let him talk about that. But my take home is that people need to understand their sensitivity to insulin. Okay, they need to understand how much carbohydrate they can eat on a daily basis and not get fat. Okay, that will solve almost all the problems. You know, Dr. O's talked about numerous times on our blog, on the Hangouts previous, about, you know, his Dr. Osborne rules. Don't eat any carbohydrates after 7 o'clock or 6 o'clock or whatever it is. But all of that is relative to understanding how your body handles insulin and processes carbohydrates. If you understand that above all other things, and of course, yes, you do your cardio, yes, you have a good weight training program like the program that we recommend, you will minimize fat deposition. Dr. O, what do you want to say? What is the take-home message, the biggest, most important point in your opinion from Get Serious V1?
Right. I mean, that's insulin, one's insulin sensitivity, one's bodily level of insulin, however you want to describe it or call it. That is, if you understand that, you will really understand the underpinnings of age-related disease and aging in general. Insulin resistance, or the opposite of insulin sensitivity, bodily inflammation, which is interrelated to one's level of circulating insulin, because insulin is an inflammatory hormone. These are really critical as far as the genesis of these diseases. And what I'm talking about are diseases like atherosclerotic disease, which affects obviously the brain, the heart, the peripheral vasculature. And again, I've said this 1,000 times, and I've stolen it from another surgeon. You're only as old as your arteries. We die of predominantly what are called NCDs, which stands for non-communicable diseases. That's the leading cause of death in the world.
Right.
We lose 100,000 people to NCDs every single day globally. And these NCDs, and I'm talking about atherosclerotic heart disease, cerebrovascular disease, so stroke, heart attack, obesity, which is interrelated,
right,
cancer, Alzheimer's disease. All of these diseases have to do with two things. One, inflammation. Two, insulin resistance, or the opposite of insulin sensitivity.
Right.
So as Jay had said, it's very, very important to keep your body fat low, because body fat is an inflammatory endocrine gland, if you will. It serves very, very little purpose aside from in the event that we are amidst a famine, which is extremely unlikely. It serves very, very little purpose for us, aside from maybe those individuals that are involved in the very, very intense endurance sports and rely on fat predominantly for their events. But for the rest of us walking around here, I'm going to tell you that, and even in those individuals are predominantly burning fat. They're very, very good fat burners. We want to sort of emulate their ability to burn fat, but at the same time, we want to keep a good amount of muscle on our body. So to do that, we have to sort of ride that fine line between not accumulating, not causing too much insulin to be secreted, keeping bodily insulin levels low, keeping inflammation low, but also managing to keep a good amount of muscle on our body. And those two things are somewhat paradoxical. If you're going to err on one side, it's going to be keep your body fat low, as opposed to high, because there's going to be less an inflammatory response in the body, and there's going to be less atherosclerotic disease and less of these NCDs if you do keep your body fat very, very low. So that's sort of a long-winded, very, very tangential answer, but you know, the goal again is to keep those two things at bay, and therefore lower the incidence of these NCDs. And really, if you just understand that, you're going to fare much, much, much better than individuals who don't sort of have a grasp on insulin's effects on the body as a whole.
And then, Doc, real quick, I'm going to jump in, ask you a quick question. This is all pinpointed in the book for people that maybe haven't read through the whole book. Is this
Yep.
This is laid out on how to identify how you respond to insulin, right?
That's right. I mean, and you can sort of tell, okay, how you're going to where you are sort of in that spectrum, as Jay was alluding to, and the way you sort of determine where you are in that spectrum is number one, you get an hemoglobin A1C, which is a very, very simple blood test. Anybody can do it. As a matter of fact, they have home kits now, not only for glucose, not only glucometers, but they actually have home kits for hemoglobin A1C. It takes minutes, okay, and you will find out sort of where you fall on that spectrum of sort of insulin sensitivity. An even better test is something that's called the glucose tolerance test, and you can do them at 2 hours, 3 hours glucose tolerance test, and all you really need is a glucometer and a dextrose drink. And again, this is something that's very, very readily available. And through those tests and maybe a fasting glucose, you really can determine where you are. A simpler way to determine where you are is sort of look back as to how you have been historically over the past year, where your diet is, what your belly fat looks like, what your abdominal fat looks like, and you'll sort of know as to whether or not you are an individual that can tolerate a sugar load or cannot. The individuals that are the quote-unquote hard gainers, and I was one of those growing up, we have a fairly
what do you mean by that, Doc?
Okay, I'm going to tell you. Those are the people that have a very, very hard time putting on muscle, okay? And you sort of stay rail thin, okay?
Fast metabolisms.
Yeah, those individuals, right, the quote-unquote fast metabolism. Well, it's not really a fast metabolism. What it is that you are not very sensitive to carbohydrates, okay? So you can pile carbohydrates into your body, okay? And you're not going to generate a tremendous insulin response, and therefore you're not going to be neither fat nor muscular. Those individuals are safer, I will say, than individuals who tend to run heavy. And it's just a quick little thing. You could sort of see where you fall on that spectrum. The people that tend to run heavy, like as an example, my brother growing up was a heavy kid. He used to say, Brett, I can eat one pretzel and I'll gain 5 pounds. Right. That is a sign of he's very, very carbohydrate sensitive. Right. Very carbohydrate. See, he's going to be the person that's going to be, if you will, is going to err on the side of being, well, you know, naturally he's going to be, he has some degree of insulin resistance. Okay?
Right, he'll be pudgy, he'll be soft.
Right. So you sort of know where you fall if you just sort of think about what you've done historically with your body in response to carbohydrates. If you're one of those persons that, okay, you know, you eat badly for a couple of days and, you know, carbohydrate-laden meals, and then you gain 5 pounds, you're probably along the lines of somebody who's insulin resistant or very, very carbohydrate sensitive. Right. I tend to be less carbohydrate sensitive, you know, on that lesser side, and that is enhanced to a great degree by metformin usage. Okay, so the metformin reduces the amount of bodily insulin. It also it increases your insulin sensitivity. So it allows me, although I don't do it that often, to sort of cheat a little bit, okay, and not have to worry as much as somebody who's not on metformin or not on some sort of diet which is really enhancing their insulin sensitivity, i.e. A ketogenic diet. So if you eat a predominantly fat and protein diet, what you're doing is you are increasing your insulin sensitivity. That's a healthier way to exist than somebody who's eating a diet that's laden with simple carbohydrates, okay, which is all that's doing is that's sort of breeding insulin resistance, okay? And herein lies the genesis of these diseases. The body, from an evolutionary standpoint, didn't really know what a simple sugar was. You got to remember that. We were eating greens, and again, this goes back thousands of years, okay? Our bodies were used to eating greens, eating vegetables, eating a lot of roughage, et cetera, not used to eating all these processed foods and sugar. So we don't really have
as much fruit back then either, right? I mean, it wasn't there wasn't as much fruit that was available either. I mean, it's mostly just vegetables and meat.
That's correct. So what you were basically doing is you're, you know, not to use the word, but you're sort of eating a paleo diet, if you will, hence the name. Right. And I'm not really in favor of a diet like that, particularly in the context of very, very intense weight training, because there is no insulin that's being released, very, very little insulin that's being released in response to those foods that are on that diet. By virtue of that, you're not going to be able to recover from your workouts, and you're going to end up overtraining very, very quickly, and you are susceptible to injury because you don't have that insulinogenic. You're not eating insulinogenic foods. Okay, remember, and this is where you have to sort of ride that fine line that I was alluding to previously. You have to understand that in order to keep muscle on your body, you need insulin. Okay, period. Insulin is the most anabolic hormone. It's more anabolic than testosterone, which is why a lot of bodybuilders use insulin and don't even use any testosterone. Okay, right. So we do need insulin to mount an anabolic response in response to training or any trauma. Otherwise, we're going to remain catabolic. Now, if you're doing things like CrossFit, which I'm not a fan of, and you're a proponent of this paleo diet, you're really ass backward, okay? Because you're beating your body up. You're beating your body up. You're overtraining, and then you're not giving yourself any
insulin.
Well, you're not giving yourself any insulin. So it's like, you're catabolic when you work out, at least transiently, and then you remain catabolic, okay, when you're trying to recover. Well, recovery and catabolism are two paradoxical. They're two opposite words. Okay?
Right.
So Doc, I gotta
anabolic when you recover. So that's why a lot of these people look very, very wasted. They're tired. They're injured. And they're all overtrained. Okay, every single one of them is overtrained. Okay, and the entity itself, the CrossFit entity, this arena is fraught with injuries. Fraught. If you look at the forward of my book that was written by Mark Asanovich, who's a former NFL strength and conditioning coach, the injury rate over the past 10 years or so since the advent of this silliness, okay, has gone up nearly 50%.
It's an orthoped's wet dream. Scott, what's your question?
Yeah, so Doc, I was just gonna say, so someone that's doing your workout from Get Serious,
right?
That maybe is starting in a place where they got a little extra tube around the stomach. They're trying to tighten up. If they're doing your workout, are they still gonna maybe potentially lose weight, even though they're trying to build muscle at the same time?
That's a good question. You will, okay, but again, the training program in the book is designed, and Jay and Monica will testify to this, is designed to give people a lot of rest. Okay, so you're only training heavy twice a week. The midweek workout is sort of this strength endurance sort of hybrid type of workout, and then you have the Tuesdays and Thursdays, which are pure endurance workouts. But basically what you're doing is you are resting during those, at least Tuesdays and Thursdays, and the entire weekend is off. So what you should be doing, yes, you will. I'm not concerned about a scale number. I could care less about what it looks like on a scale. Okay. The one thing that I care is that you are becoming a more shapely individual. Your body fat is going down, okay, and your waist sign, okay, is shrinking, okay, and that will undoubtedly happen. Now, does that mean that you don't have to experiment and sort of fiddle around and figure out where your sweet spot is as far as how much carbohydrate you can put into your body, how much macronutrient you have to put into your body in order to sort of succeed in attaining, in order to attain a certain fitness goal, whether that be stronger, whether that be shrink your waistline? I'm not saying that. Everybody does. Everybody's going to be a little different. Everybody has a different set point. Everybody's on different medications, et cetera, et cetera. So you're going to have to fiddle around. As a general rule, okay, as I said in the book, okay, about a gram of protein per pound of body weight per day, okay, and set your carbohydrate load to somewhere around 150 grams, okay, and then make up the rest of your BMR, okay, and there's a way to calculate this. It's very, very simple, okay. BMR calculators are all over the internet. Make up the rest of your BMR, okay, with fats, okay. It's very, very, very simple for anti-inflammatory fats, obviously, your omega-9s, your omega-3s, okay, and skip the omega-6. If you start out there, okay, and then, and this may have been said by Jay or Monica prior to me getting on, if you start out there and go right to your, somewhere around your sedentary BMR, maybe even a little more, okay, because you are training intensely, maybe a couple hundred or 250, maybe even 500 kilocalories more per day than your sedentary BMR, okay, you're going to find that's going to be your baseline, and then you're going to work backwards, okay? So you see where you are, okay? If you think that you need to lose a little bit more fat, all you're going to do, okay, is you're going to cut that carbohydrate signal down just a little bit. I wouldn't go crazy, okay, which is what the paleo people do. They say, your carbohydrate load is, you're going to go down to 50, okay, grams.
I've seen people doing that, Doc. I've seen people doing CrossFit on the paleo, and they look like they're about to die. It's ridiculous.
No. They look aged, okay, it's stupid. It just doesn't make any sense. It's nonsensical, okay, and I can tell you right now.
It's retarded.
I can tell you right now, okay, the guys that are the elite of the elite, okay, in CrossFit, okay, have been asked whether or not they do paleo, and you know what they do? Laugh.
Right.
It's a joke, okay? Right. It's an absolute joke. Now, if you want to lose weight fast, okay, I would not recommend doing CrossFit, okay, and doing paleo, okay? If you want to lose weight, okay, it's very, 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 if you want to look leaner, it's very, very simple. Start lifting your weights, okay? Start with a reasonable carbohydrate load, okay, so that you can put on that muscle, which is metabolically expensive, but also burns fat predominantly when it's recovering and resting, okay? So when you're sleeping, if you put on muscle, you're going to be burning that fat off your body. You're going to be becoming a more shapely individual. There's going to be less fat on you, more muscle. Is the scale going to change? Not necessarily. I don't care. Your waistline's going to change, okay?
Right.
You may stay at 150 pounds, okay? But your 150 pounds at 10% body fat is going to be a lot worse looking, okay? Or 20% body fat than your 150 pounds, okay, at 7% body fat.
Right.
I can tell you for sure.
What Brett's saying too, just to add, and Scott, I know it's 5:05 already. If you have any,
whatever.
If you have any questions,
I love it.
if you have,
I got one question here from someone that's watching. I'd like to ask.
Real quick, ask it in a second. I just wanted to add to what Brett was saying, though, and I don't think we've ever really talked about this on the show, but you guys both just alluded to it. Brett said very, very eloquently. The scales mean absolutely effing nothing. Okay, you literally have to judge by how clothes fit on your body. That's the only objective sourcing, like, of understanding, like, if it's working. Meaning, how do your clothes fit? How, like Dr. Brett said, is your waistline shrinking? Are your belts? Does your belt on your pants, start like having to loop up? That's how you know you're actually making changes. Too many women, especially, get so concerned with weight loss. And even guys who are obese, who are trying to lose weight, they're looking at the scale every day. Stop it. Throw your effing scale in the garbage can. It's worthless. You're looking to change your body composition, and if you do the things that he just talked about, reducing your carbohydrate intake and building muscle, you will lose body fat surely and slowly.
Yes, and you can put muscle on your body, okay, with relatively, you don't have to be 500 grams of carbohydrates every day, okay? Right. You don't, okay? You can put it, you have to figure out where your set point is. You've got to figure out where your set point is. If you're overtraining, if you find out that you're overtraining and you're not amassing the muscle, okay, you bump your carbohydrates up just a little bit. In other words, it may be 100, and you have to be careful and you have to be diligent. You have to watch your macronutrients, okay, at least in the beginning until you learn where you are and become habituated to this. But you may go from 150 grams to 175 or 200 grams of carbohydrates a day, and it may make a world of difference. Again, right. You're switching on, okay, you're right on that fine line between anabolism and catabolism, okay? So that's where you have to understand, everybody is different. The reason why diets work, diets fail, okay, they don't work for everybody, they work for some people, is because of that one issue. It has to do with insulin and where an individual's set point is, okay? Now, yes, you can drop, okay, carbohydrates down to 50, okay, and I can tell you right now, you will, okay, lose body fat. The question is are you going to amass muscle, okay, at 50 grams of carbohydrates a day? No way, okay? And if you're going to do one thing, if it's going to be a more muscular individual with a teeny amount of fat on your body, okay, or be a cachectic person, I'm going to tell you to be the former rather than the latter, okay? Right. You don't want to be a cachectic person who looks like a stick, right? Okay, that is not healthy, okay? I can tell you from being in the ICU for years, okay? Yeah. Those people come to the ICU having sustained some sort of insult and they die.
Yep.
No resilience, okay? Your resilience to disease, okay? Your immune system, to a great degree, lies in your muscle. Why? Because immunoglobulins are the proteins that fight off disease, okay, particularly bacterial invaders, viral invaders, et cetera, okay? Those proteins are resident in our muscle. So our muscle, right, like our fat, is storage for protein, okay? Your fat does a whole lot of nothing, okay? Like I said, it has very, very little metabolic benefit, okay? And all it does is secrete these inflammatory cytokines, okay, which further or perpetuate age-related disease.
Right, and it reduces blood flow. Huh.
Yep.
All right, so quick question from Robert. Sorry we took so long to get to it, Robert. Hopefully you're still watching. If not, you can see the replay. He asked, do you believe in and utilize pre-workout supplementation?
Yeah. So, Jay, you want to answer?
No,
I can tell you what.
Go ahead.
Yeah. I used the pre-workouts pre-workout, whatever you want to call them, shakes, mixes, drinks, whatever, pretty aggressively.
So how far before? It's like 20 minutes, 15,
yeah,
10?
That's a good point. What you don't want to be doing is you don't want to be taking your pre-workout 3 minutes as you're walking into the gym. That's a bad idea. Okay, you want to get that stuff into your body 30 to 45 minutes out, and I can tell you I'm speaking from years of experience in this regard. I've tried a whole lot of them. My biggest thing is making sure that there's a good amount of caffeine primarily. I've tried some of the nootropic-based pre-workouts, and I think that they work fairly well. But it's my sort of understanding and sort of what I gleaned from my own experience that what's primarily doing the job is the ergogenic dose of caffeine. What's an ergogenic dose of caffeine? Well, people think, oh, I'll just go drink a Mountain Dew. It has 90 milligrams of caffeine or whatever it has in it, and it's good. Just so everybody knows, and I'm not telling you that you have to do this because some people may be particularly sensitive, but an ergogenic dose of caffeine, okay, is 500 milligrams, is 600 milligrams. It's a big dose, okay, and I have no problem putting that into my body. If you're not very, very sensitive to it and you can sleep, despite putting that into your body a little bit later in the day, do it as long as you're not tachycardic or having any side effects from it. I will tell you that that is what allows me at a body weight of 185 pounds to deadlift 500 pounds, to squat, into the mid fours. Okay, it's because and it's a mindset thing. But these things sort of amplify those effects. But I have no problem at all putting 500 milligrams of caffeine into my body half hour to 45 minutes before.
And Scott, you can buy, Brett's right, it's so hilarious how the supplement companies scam people out of things, but like you can buy 500 milligram caffeine tablets on Amazon for $6 and have it at your house tomorrow. You can order it right now and have it at your house on Prime, probably tonight, depending on where you are in the country.
All right, so
Brett's totally right. Like all of those drinks, like the NOS, the NOS, and all that other stuff that, there's supposedly stimulators. That shit's nonsense, man.
All right, so let's just talk about what you guys actually do. So, like,
I do the same thing. I mean,
caffeine, and then what shake do you do? Is a protein shake?
I'm going to show you what I use right now. What I'm fiddling with. Hold on.
So Scott, like, I think his answer is excellent. I think caffeine is better. It's a better stimulant, ergogen than anything else. Performance enhancing, that's what ergogenic means. But the reality is that this should be answered twofold, okay? Because when somebody says a pre-workout drink, you could drink a shake 30 or 45 minutes before that has carbs and protein in it, and you're getting glycogen restoration or repletion with the protein. Or are we talking about just like an energy stimulant like Doc's saying, like caffeine? So I want to make sure we separate those two. There are guys out there that have made pre-workout drinks that supposedly combine both of those things, but I think putting caffeine with your protein is not really conducive. And as Dr. Brett says, you want to get this stuff in your system at least 30 to 45 minutes before you start training.
Protein should be more of like a mid-afternoon, instead of like snacking on something crappy, you're doing a protein shake.
Just remember, you got to have plenty of protein, right? Brett said it, 150 grams of protein a day, whatever, depending on your size or your body weight. But you got to make sure, it's very important that you always get your protein and some carbohydrates like within an hour, 45 minutes post-workout to restore or to repair the tissue that you just damaged from training with building muscle.
All right, Brett, let's see what you got here.
I mean, this is just what I'm trying now. I have no idea. I mean, if it's better than anything else. I don't even know where I got this from. I think I got this one from GNC.
Right.
And you can see up here, it's got this is per scoop. Okay, so it's got 175. Maybe you've tried this, Jay, maybe not. 175 milligrams of caffeine per scoop, and then 3 grams of creatine, and then 1 grams of beta-alanine. I use 2 scoops of this, and I also use this is my friend's company, actually, and I've been trying it because he asked me to try it. It's this Muscle Elements brand, creatine-based.
You need to send me one of those, bro.
Yeah, creatine-based supplement. I think that creatine probably does help me a bit. Between the two of these, I'm getting 10 grams of creatine and a whole bunch of caffeine and some citrulline malate, which is this new in vogue sort of stuff. I don't really know if it's good or bad. I've read a little bit about it in some of the some of the science and some of the research journals, and there seems to be something to it, but who knows? I honestly think that caffeine, exactly, caffeine and creatine, I think are the two supplements that work from an ergogenic standpoint. So I would make
pre-workout standpoint.
Right.
Okay.
Yes, a good amount of caffeine, and your creatine typically is about 5 grams per day as sort of a maintenance dose. Those are the things that I have found work well, and that's sort of echoed in the literature as well. I mean, there are not many ergogenic supplements that are legal that work that absolutely do. And there's data.
Caffeine,
creatine, and caffeine. Yep.
That's that. Like Scott, just to add, and I know we got to go. We'll close off.
Yeah, we're gonna wrap it up here. But
yeah, you can buy those little drinks, the Mios or whatever. They're loaded with caffeine. Squirt those in your water in the morning before you do your Tuesday and Thursday endurance training if you're trying to lose body fat. And as Brett said, you get tons of caffeine that way. And Brett's right. I mean, there's nothing better than tried and true caffeine for an ergogenic boost.
Nope. Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, this has been enlightening. I feel like, we talked about a lot of different stuff today, and Dr. Brett, you jumped on at the end there, and I really appreciate you jumping on, of course. But I feel like this was a great hangout. We went over so many different things, and it's just, God, I love it, man. It's just very exciting, and I hope more and more people get to see this. And you guys are the best, and thanks for always doing this every couple of weeks. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, for sure. I know we missed the last one, but more and more people are watching it. Brett. Well, actually, we got a second. Brett, talk because you weren't on. Tell us a little bit about your practice. What's going on? What's the latest ETA?
Right. We are due to go live in the new office in about 3 weeks. It is really it's sort of a state-of-the-art facility with all sorts of media and all sorts of sort of content-bearing devices, et cetera, et cetera. I'm not going to go too much into it. You'll have to see it on the online, because I'm not going to do it any justice or any service. But it's really going to be about pushing the envelope a little bit and getting as much information and content out to the individuals that either visit us via website or come and actually visit us in the office. There's going to be special type of testing going on, which is going to be included in sort of the advanced anti-aging regenerative package, in addition to the formal laboratory analysis, et cetera, et cetera. And again, this will sort of be showcased on the website. But we're very, very, very excited to go live with this, and I think it's really going to be able to help help.
Can't wait.
A lot of people. Yeah, it's going to be. We're really, really looking forward to it. I think it's going to be sort of a one-of-a-kind facility. So again, the ETA on that is August 3rd. At this point, hopefully we won't have any setbacks. We've had the usual delays, but overall things are going fairly well, and they're staying relatively on track. So we're excited about the whole venture. Really excited.
Cool, Scott. We'll talk much more on the next hangout. We'll talk much more about Brett's practice.
Cool.
And we'll go from there. Brett, thanks for calling up.
Yeah, and then guys, stay on after we stop the hangout for just a second, okay?
Go ahead.
Okay, well, you can stop it.
All right.
Thanks.
Thanks, guys.